What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. I recently took a trip down to Florida and my rental car was an EV. I'm going to talk to you about my experience renting this car and why you should not buy one right now. Let's go. So the vehicle that I actually rented was a Polestar 2. It was a front wheel drive model. I don't know the horsepower or torque figures. I would just look it up and put it on the screen, but it was small, compact, very fun to drive. As we know, electric cars have the instant torque, so that is a huge benefit of having an EV. Also, not paying the price of gas. So the EV cost, like the kilowatt cost, is cheaper than the cost of a gallon of gas, or even diesel for that matter. For the matter of fact. So I want to talk about the good things that I did enjoy about the vehicle. So starting off was the instant torque. The instant torque is very, very addictive. I could not stop putting my foot into it, even though the car wasn't even like a huge horsepower electric vehicle. It was still very fun because of how small it was. So just to kind of give you guys an understanding of what that feels like, imagine driving a manual transmission car in like first gear and how instant that torque is when you put your foot on the gas pedal. Well, the same thing. Imagine having that type of feeling all the time. So it's like always being in the right gear all the time, but there's no gears. It's just the electric motor that controls all of this. So the next thing I do like about the EV is the sound. Honestly, it's not an internal combustion engine, so I never had the mindset of expecting it to sound like some kind of ICE vehicle, internal combustion engine vehicle that has a nice exhaust note. However, the sound of the electric motors is a very futuristic but cool sound. Favorite turbocharger sound when you're fully into it, and it sounds so cool. So I like that about the EV. Next thing I do like about the EVs is the interest. EVs have high interest. So what I mean is, nobody, like all regular people who walk around who sees this vehicle, they are interested and they want to know, like, what is that? Like, is that like a Tesla? What is that? Then I have to explain to them what it is. And then when I tell them it's an electric vehicle, you know, they're super interested. Like, oh, how is that? You know, how is it driving that? Like, what's your experience? Well, I'm talking about that experience now. But I think that's cool because, you know, it's like driving around in some kind of like sports car that people don't see very often, driving around in an EV, especially down there in Florida, because it's not very popular down there, not in my area that I was at, which is Tampa, Florida. So moving on to the next thing that I do like about the EV is the functionality. So just to give you an understanding of the functionality, the vehicle never turns off, which sounds weird when you come from a regular vehicle, but it doesn't. It is always monitoring all the time. It's kind of annoying because I want it to turn off, but when you actually get used to why it functions a certain way, you kind of live with it. But it never turns off, and a good thing about that is because it makes life a little bit easier. You never have to start the vehicle, turn it off. When you open the door and leave the car, what it does, it sleeps automatically once the driver gets out, closes the door, and locks the car. It senses that there's no driver and the car is locked, and it just goes to sleep. And this saves the battery. However, the fact that it's not always off, it allows it to be monitored at all times, especially for like safety and cameras and things like that. Another feature that I do like as far as functionality is the one pedal driving. One pedal driving is a game changer for driving, because I noticed that driving in one pedal driving is actually easier in traffic. Like, you never have to fumble with gas pedal, brake pedal. Like, You don't have to switch back and forth. All you do is drive with that one pedal and it does everything for you. So that is a cool feature. And if I was to get an electric vehicle in the far future, because that ain't happening anytime soon, because I'm gonna get into why, that is a huge benefit, one pedal driving. Now that I've talked to you about the good things about having an EV, let's talk about the bad things about this car and what my experiences were driving this car around. Starting with the first one, the efficiency, the range. It absolutely sucks. Like, I know they talk big about range with electric vehicles and how long they go and stuff like that, but if you want to actually enjoy your drive, that shouldn't be something I have to worry about. I always have to look at how much charge I have left on a vehicle, and if it gets to a certain amount, I have to plan the rest of my day charging, and that is not something I want to have to do. I don't want to have to worry about planning my day around charging my vehicle just to enjoy myself, especially when I'm trying to enjoy myself with family or friends or anything like that, where you don't really worry about things like that. When your gas gets low, you fill it up and you keep going with life. But when it's an EV, you have to make a plan, because if you go to a charger that is not a fast charger, you're gonna be there all day. So going into the next thing is charging. Charging EVs is the absolute worst experience of an EV, period. Charging the EV is the absolute worst experience, man. Like, my first experience charging this car, it took like hours, because I had to first plan where to go. And then when I would go to places, it was either two things. It was a slow charger or it was taken. And I didn't understand like fast chargers and slow chargers. And the slow chargers, when I say slow, these things are ungodly slow. I'm talking like 5 to 10, maybe even longer in charge time. And this is like when you're charging from like 30% and trying to get up to a good range, like 70% or above. Like, it absolutely just ruins the whole electric car experience. Like, if the charging experience was good, like great, like if the infrastructure supported the electric car the way the infrastructure supports the gas powered cars, I would consider buying one. But because of that alone, it is not worth buying an electric car, period. The worst thing about charging is that some of these slow chargers you have to pay for. Why would I pay for something that's taking time out of my life? Like, that is not fun. Like, all chargers, every single slow charger that exists should be free. But they're not. Not all of them are free, which sucks. Which is another reason that pretty much puts the icing on the cake. Why would I spend money for a terrible experience and also for an expensive car on top of that? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And like, to move on, it's an electric car, so it's pretty much a computer on wheels, and it drives exactly like that. It feels like you're driving something inauthentic. So for example, like, the safety features are just too intrusive. Like, I can't have too much fun with it because it'll start steering for me. I can't do things I can't brake the way I want to because it'll start braking for me. Like, I can't accelerate like I want to because it'll start accelerating for me. So what I mean for accelerating, I mean, like, if you're not going a certain speed, it won't let you accelerate quickly. It'll kind of gradually get into it, and finally it'll give you max power, which is not what I want. When I put my foot down at a red light, I want that thing to take off like a rocket, like the instant torque that they claim about. But these cars don't allow that because it's not safe. So with the safety features in mind and a computerized car that it is just too inauthentic. and it's too computerized to really enjoy your drive the way you want to enjoy it. So with that said, if I can't enjoy my drive, I don't want the car. And let's talk about the last thing I want to bring up is I noticed that these cars, because of how computerized and how focused the engineers are on the efficiency of the car, which it sucks by the way, they don't think about the human part of the car, the interaction that the human has with the car. So for instance, like some of the features that a regular car would be good at, electric cars are absolutely terrible at. For instance, cup holders. The car that I was using, I had to lift up the center console just to get an additional cup holder. And on top of that, the ergonomics of where the cup holders were placed were in the way. I couldn't even enjoy the car because I was too busy hitting my elbow against the cups, like because they were right here in my way. How about you move the cups in a regular ergonomically placed way that regular cars usually have? But no, not this car. And also the lack of buttons. It is way too minimalistic for a regular person. You know, I don't want to have to look at a screen if I don't have to. I want to be able to just reach my hand down and know just by how it feels what button I'm pressing. If I want to adjust my fan speeds, that should be a button. The volume, that's a knob. That's cool. They have that. But just the fact that there's a lack of buttons forces me to look at a screen all the time. And in my opinion, that's not safe. With my experience just driving and renting this car for a week, I quickly pretty much told myself, I can't buy this. I can't buy one of these yet. Like, it's not good enough. Like, it's not convenient enough. Like, there's just too many things that you have to really think about when owning one of these. And yes, there's benefits to owning one, like you save money in fuel, you save money in maintenance costs, things like that. But all in all, like, the experience is so terrible when it comes to charging and planning and just driving in general because it's so computerized. And I know what they mean when they say the one-trick pony. Like the one-trick pony, yeah, it accelerates well. That's it. Like, it doesn't drive as good as like a regular car that you can control a little bit better because they're not as computerized as these modern electric vehicles. So I mean, this video is kind of like telling you my experience, but also ranting about my experience. But all in all, if you're thinking about driving an EV, I mean, if your life can pretty much not just afford it, but if you have the means to go to fast chargers often, and they're good ones too, I mean, why not? But for the most part, most vehicles that are not Teslas don't have the ability to use Tesla superchargers, so the charging will be a lot slower, and the slow chargers aren't even worth spending money on, period, because they are way too slow. So the experience is absolutely terrible. So with that said, that's why you should not buy an EV right now. So I hope you like this video. So consider liking it, subscribe to my channel, more videos to come. Have a good one. Have a good day and a good night, and God bless.